Welcome to Concept 2 Notes. We are going to be talking about the behaviors of waves or things that we see waves tend to do. Now, before we do this in class, we're going to actually do a station activity where you're going to get to explore this on your own and really experience it for yourself. But for now, for the sake of the notes, we're just going to dive in and I'm going to explain them. But in class, I want you to experience it first. So first one we're going to talk about is reflection. Okay, this is probably one behavior of a wave that you're the most familiar with. This is when a wave strikes an object and bounces off of it. Okay, so light is striking the surface of this water and it's bouncing off of it, and that's what's giving us this reflected image. Now, all types of waves, though, can be reflected. Think about a sound wave. What would it look like for a sound wave to strike something and bounce off of it? Have you ever been in a room and you shout or you're talking and then you hear echoes? Your voice is bouncing off of the walls rather than being absorbed by the walls. That is an example of sound wave reflection, is the echo that you are hearing. Okay, so that's one behavior of waves. Now, something I want to address in regards to the reflection is this concept of the law of reflection. So what we see is that the angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection. Here's what that means. Okay, so you have a surface right here. This is your reflecting surface. Okay, this would be like the surface of the water that we just saw in that last photo. The incident ray, it would be that light wave that is striking the surface of the water, the reflected surface. The normal is the line that's perpendicular to this reflecting surface, and the angle of incidence is just the angle between the incident ray and this normal ray. Okay, now you're like, what does all that mean? What does that even matter? Here's all that matters about this. This law just says that this reflected ray, that light wave that's bouncing off the surface of the water and bouncing off of it, that reflected ray, it's going to create an angle of reflection with the normal, and these are going to be equal. So if this light wave comes in at a 45-degree angle, the reflected ray is going to bounce off at a 45-degree angle. That's all. Okay, this is one of those examples of something that sounds so much more complicated than it actually is, okay? So they're just going to be equal to each other. That's what we're going to see in reflection. Now, another behavior of waves that I want to introduce you to is refraction. Okay, and this is something you can see right now in this photo, is that the fish almost looks like there's two fish here. It looks disjointed. It's like, is the tail here or is it here? Where is that? You may have seen this also too if you've ever been standing on the pool deck and you have a friend standing in the pool water and it looks like their legs are a little bit disconnected from their torso or their upper body that's coming out of the water. That is a prime example of refraction. Okay. Refraction is the bending of waves caused by a change in its speed as it moves from one medium through another. So if you remember, we talked about before how the type of wave and the medium it travels through will impact the speed of a wave. And so what we see in refraction is that as the wave, whether it's a light wave or a sound wave, is moving through a different medium, it's going to have a change in speed because of that medium, and then it's going to bend or cause that refraction. The greater the change in speed, the more the wave is going to bend, okay? So you may remember from concept 1, we talked about light waves like we see here. Light waves travel fastest in a vacuum. So looking at this picture, the light is bending as it moves from the air where it can move faster into the water where it can move slower. So that slowing down, that change of speed causes it to bend. And that's why the fish appears to be a little disjointed here. Okay, the greater the change in speed, the more the wave bends. Okay, so if this was going to go from the air to maybe like a solid, then that would be a greater bend than from the air, which is a gas, to a liquid, which would be a less drastic change in speed because the medium's a little bit less drastic of a shift. Okay. And with honor students in Concept 3 notes, we'll talk about how refraction is used in different lenses to correct our vision. So this bending is really an important concept, this refraction. And this is also how prisms work. So what happens in a prism is light waves enter into a prism and then they slow down because the medium's changed, okay? We've gone from like a gas to a solid, or it can be a gas to a liquid we can still see this phenomenon happen. But typically when we're talking about a prism, we're talking about, a solid triangle here. This causes the waves to bend or refract as they move through the new medium because of the change in the medium. And what you'll see when we get to talking more about light waves in concept 3 notes is that different colors of light bend different amounts. And the colors are then separated out, and that's how we get a rainbow. And this happens because every color of light has a different wavelength. So like red light is longer wavelengths than violet lights. And so that's why they get separated out, because they're traveling at different speeds as they go through. And that's how we get these beautiful rainbows we see through a prism. And that's exactly how this works when we see a rainbow too, except for the prism is going to be the water droplets that are in the air. That's why often you see a rainbow after it's rained, because the light waves are traveling through the water droplets, but then they're also traveling through the air. And that change in speed due to the change in medium is going to cause each of the different color wavelengths to refract out, to bend different amounts. And then we get all the colors separated out in a beautiful rainbow. Now, similar to refraction is diffraction. Diffraction, though, is when an object causes a wave to change direction and bend around it. Okay, so refraction is just bending the wave, and it's because of a change in medium causing a change in speed. Diffraction is the wave is actually going to move all the way around it, and it depends on 2 things. It depends on the size of the object that the waves hit and the wavelength of the waves. So sound waves diffract much better than light waves because they're much larger. They have much greater wavelengths. So think they would be able to bend around something a little bit easier. Think about if you were standing on one side of a doorway and someone was on the other side of that doorway. You could be talking and the sound would get to them very easily because it can bend around the doorway, as opposed to the light that would be bending around the doorway. Looking at this picture as well, you can see the picture above here. This has a smaller opening here. And so we're going to see how the wave is diffracting more. So this is hitting this, and then it's going to have to bend as it goes through this. Whereas here, the opening is larger, so it's not having to bend as much. So the size of the object the waves are hitting, how big that gap is, and then how long the waves are, their size is going to also impact how much diffraction there is. Okay, the next wave behavior we're going to talk about is absorption. So this is when a wave strikes an object and it doesn't bounce off of it. It doesn't get caused to bend. It doesn't bend around it. It actually goes into it. So it just gets absorbed. And energy from the wave gets converted to thermal energy. Now, this is why they say dark colors are better at absorbing light waves than lighter colors like white. And so this is why it's actually better to wear dark colors in the winter to stay warmer outside, because the light from the sun would be hitting your darker coat and be absorbed, as opposed to if you were wearing like a white coat and it would be not absorbing as much and potentially even reflecting and bouncing off. You wouldn't get that absorption and thus that conversion to thermal energy, which keeps you warm. Okay, the next behavior we're going to talk about is superposition, but also, and this is how I've always described it in the past, as interference. So these words are not technically interchangeable, but they are extremely related. And so I'm fine with you if you're referring to interference and you're referring to superposition, I'm going to know what you're talking about in my class, okay? And we can see a picture of it here, what that looks like. So superposition is when 2 or more waves combine at the same location. So you can see that in this picture here. These 2 water waves, you can see them rippling out and they're combining right here. There's superposition happening, okay? They're adding their disturbances together as they superimpose. And the result is interference. So the resulting effect of superposition is interference. Okay. And so this is why, again, I don't care if we use these interchangeably, whether you're talking about waves interfering or them superimposing, but technically they're slightly different definitions. Okay. So let's talk more about interference, the resulting effect of superposition. What we see is that when 2 waves arrive at the same place at the same time, they can interfere often constructively or destructively. In constructive interference, the 2 or more waves end up adding to each other, and that increases the overall amplitude of the wave. So like think about if you add 5 plus 5, you get 10. That's a bigger number. That's what we see in this picture. And this happens when the parts of the wave line up. So the troughs line up, the crests line up, the troughs line up, the crests line up. What we get as a result is see how the amplitude of this resulting wave is bigger than these two? That's constructive interference. Okay, again, we get an increase in amplitude of the wave. Whereas destructive interference is when two or more waves subtract from one another when they overlap. So this is when their opposite parts line up. So a trough to a crest or a crest to a trough. So two waves, they're exactly opposite in direction. They arrive at the same time. They would cancel each other out. So it'd be like adding a -5 and a +5. You're still adding them together, but the result is 0. So we get this kind of flat line here because they cancel each other out. Here's another picture that might be helpful. So wave A and wave B, if these were to see how they're lined up in their parts, if they were to come together and combine, it would be constructive interference and we'd get this larger amplitude wave of wave AB. Whereas here in destructive interference, we've got wave A, we've got wave B, but notice how their parts are opposite of each other. When these would add together, in destructive, they would cancel out and have the no amplitude together. Now, another thing related to interference is a standing wave. This is a phenomenon of interference or superposition. And this is a special type of wave pattern that forms when waves equal in wavelength and amplitude, but traveling in opposite directions continuously interfere with each other. So see what this looks like when they're traveling in opposite directions versus here. Notice our arrows, they're all traveling the same direction. Okay, this is when they're going opposite. We're going to get something that looks like this. And this occurs when the medium vibrates. It's got to happen at a very specific frequency, but it creates a wave that does not move or have a change in amplitude at all. And these little parts where the waves are crossing over each other at the normal rest position, these are called nodes right here. And this is something that we can see in certain instruments, like in a violin, that they can create standing waves like this. Okay, and last but not least, the last behavior I want to talk to you about is resonance. And this is something we saw with the tuning forks in our lab station activity. This is a process where an object is made to vibrate at its natural frequency by absorbing the energy of another object that is vibrating at the same frequency. Because remember, waves are moving energy. Okay, so thinking about tuning forks. If I strike one tuning fork and it has the same frequency as another, if I put them near each other and then I stop the first, the second will have picked up on that energy and start vibrating as well. Okay, that's resonance. And those are all the wave behaviors we're going to talk about. So now we're going to practice.